Hi, and welcome everyone to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I am a Bereavement Support Specialist. And it's good to see you, Susan.
Great to see you, Lisa. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. My name is Susan Capurso. I'm an end-of-life doula and legacy specialist. And I wanna just really say welcome to our channel. It's so nice of the people who watched in and hopefully have learned something from the different topics we've talked about. Some a little harder than others, some a little more fluffy than others, and those are fun even though it's the end of life. But today, it's a little bit more serious. We're tackling a subject that can potentially touch us all in our lives, yet one that we often avoid discussing when it comes to making end of life choices. Specifically, today's topic is medical aid in dying. Now, I don't know if you have, but I have been hearing little tidbits here and there on the news and in different places. And Lisa and I thought it was a valuable topic to talk about. But I want to also acknowledge today that it's a personal topic. It's not a one size fits all. And it does intersect with everybody's values and your beliefs and emotions, right? So Lisa and I are not here to advocate for any particular choice, but rather to explore different options that exist and some factors that you might consider, you and your family, when facing difficult decisions like this. So just remember that, this is a process that we're talking about when it comes to terminally ill people, um, mentally capable people of making these decisions in their life. And we'll tell you a little bit about that more as we move forward. But it's a topic that we may choose personally at end of life to have a more peaceful end of life. And many people suffer, as you'll hear from Lisa in a minute, from unbearable suffering in their lives. And it's very sad. And it does put things in perspective for those of us who are healthy at the moment. Lisa and I were just talking about that earlier. But our goal today is simple, Lisa, right? It's to provide you with some factual information, some thoughtful perspectives, and also a couple resources that we came across as well to help you make your own informed decisions. Lisa and I don't know everything, and we're learning and educating ourselves as well on the whole end of life process, as you know, if you've watched any of our videos. And we encourage you to do so as well, or pass them along to someone who may need it the most. But whatever your beliefs are, we hope that this conversation helps you think a little bit more deeply about how we approach end of life care in our society today. So, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Well said, Susan. Well said. So this is a topic that touches most of us. If we've had anyone who has been ill, and who has not died suddenly. I had two sudden deaths, as you all know, my father and my biological mother. But I've also had two deaths of long-term suffering, I guess you'd call it. I'll bring up my mom, who was in the hospital for 7.5 months, never seeming to get well. And in fact, even having a DNR that was violated because they brought her back and shouldn't have. And her ending up with tubes and machines that there's no way she would want, and me having to go to a patient advocate and to hospital administrators to make sure that those machines were turned off. It was a very grueling process. It was already hard to see her deteriorating and not being able to help her in any way. But at the end, having everything taken out and having her physically die within 2 hours. So that, in addition to my husband, who with pancreatic cancer for 15 months, tried to fight the disease, and we went everywhere to try and find answers. Very difficult disease to treat. And at some point, he said, I'm done. I'm done with the treatments. I'm done with finding anything else. Let me just be. And so at the end, I called in hospice, and they told me exactly what would happen, and the body would die, et cetera, and how it would die. And within a week, he was gone. Okay.
Right. So, Lisa, but before you go on to tell us about the most recent story that we were talking about, I really want to shed a little light on this. We've all heard of Dr. Kevorkian,
Yeah.
right? And that's a medically assisted suicide he helped. And it was something that was along the lines of what we're talking about today, but I think it scared people. It scared people because you just come in, that's it, don't plan for it, and you're gone a few minutes later, right? So that theory, what was one that actually introduced us to end of life a little bit, right? And it made people think a little bit outside the box. But today we're talking about medical aid in dying and the legality of it in the United States. And I was very shocked to see, first of all, we're in New York, okay, and it's not legal in New York yet, although that's why it's been a topic that I've been thinking about lately, right? Because it just hasn't been passed yet. Go
It
ahead, you're
passed
about to
the
say something.
legislation. We're waiting for a governor to sign. That's it.
Okay,
Okay. So it
okay.
passed the legislature.
So we've got that far with it. But I was also shocked that as of 2025 now, there are only 12 states that have approved this option.
Yes.
And I'm going to tell you what they are real quick because it's important for you to know. But it's California, Colorado, Delaware, Hawaii, Maine, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, Oregon, Vermont, Washington, and the District of Columbia. So each state, it did say, has their own specific legislation. But they share many common elements when it came to deciding whether to do this or not. But interestingly enough, like Lisa just said, New York isn't one of them yet, but I believe that we're heading in that direction,
Right.
right?
So suffering. I don't think any of us want to see our family members, our dear friends, people who mean a lot to us suffer. And it is a very difficult decision, especially at the end of life, and again, this very personal, there are, spiritual and religious, ideas about this. Um, but for me, I will tell you about my friend from high school who has a genetic disease called Huntington's disease. He got it from his mother. I don't know if they knew how much genetic influence it would be because he got it 15 years ago. And his daughter, who is 37, also has it. That's young onset, which means that it comes on very quickly. So he's at the stage where he's basically bedridden and he can't do anything. He can't feed himself. He can't take care of himself. He can't do anything. Um, and there are no words to express seeing him that way. The friend who used to run the marathons, bike out to the Hamptons, come back. He was the athlete for all of us. Um, and to see him living like this, living, okay, living. And then knowing that his daughter could, at this age, live maybe another 20 years like this, because I knew the mother, and the mother did live for 20 years, and I don't know what age she got it. So it just makes you think about, and by the way, let's talk about my friend's wife and the mother of this daughter and the life she is leading, which is basically doctors and home care providers and just keeping people alive and doing the best she can to give them whatever life they can have. And she does that 100%. Um, to me, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare that I would never want to live. I don't know how she does it. People say to me, I don't know how she does that. She does what she needs to do, she says. Um, she just put an elevator into the house that was $40,000 that the daughter could go down and see her father. Okay. $40,000. She took money from pensions and stuff and did that just to have them to have something so that the family could be together. So,
It's heartbreaking, Lisa, but it's putting things into a little bit of perspective for those of us who are still healthy,
yep,
right? And don't have to deal with these things.
that's right.
But I do want to talk a little bit about who qualifies,
Right,
who can qualify for this medical aid in dying in the states where it is legal.
right.
Um,
Before you do
there's a few things.
before you do that,
Yeah.
I just want to mention one more thing because most of us have had pets. And euthanasia for pets, for all of us, have always meant we don't want to see our pets suffer. Okay. They stop drinking, they stopped eating, they're either old or they have a disease, and we know that there's no hope for them. And we make sure that they will never suffer. I put two dogs to sleep, a cat, and we do that. And then we look at our own lives and it just makes you wonder. I just want to put it that way. Makes you wonder about what we want for ourselves and what we want and can help others who we love. Okay. So back to, the restrictions and what medical aid in dying means. They're very specific in everything that they
Oh,
say.
yeah.
Okay. They're really covering themselves. Okay. Really covering themselves.
Well, you have to, and it's really important, and I'm happy about that. I'm happy that there are so many restrictions that need to be followed in order to do this. And again, we're not talking about, and one thing I brought up and I said I didn't want to mention during this video is suicide. I mean, that's something that we can all easily do if you still can, if you can still reach for the glass of water and you could still, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about something that's a little bit more planned, a little bit, I think, that can be a more beautiful experience with your family. Don't get me wrong and be mad because I use the word beautiful. Okay, but it can be a better experience to honor your loved one and who you're with. So one of the criteria is you have to be at least 18 years old. All right. So you have to be considered an adult at 18. You must have a terminal illness. Okay. Of course, with a prognosis of at least 6 months or less. And it has to be confirmed by two different physicians, which is really important, right? So it's not just a favorite doctor that you have. It has to be confirmed by two different doctors. And you have to be mentally capable of making your own healthcare decisions. Okay, because it's very easy to not be able to do that, to fall into that category where other people just want to make the decision for you. In a case, an example that we brought up was dementia or Alzheimer's. You have to be mentally capable of making that important decision on your own, and you must be able to self-administer the medication. No one else can give it to you, which is a good criteria as well. There has to be at least two verbal requests made, separated by a waiting period, which I liked as well. So it's not something you could, I do things and change my mind 2 days later because we can, and because we say we're women and we have the power to change our minds, right? But no, they have a waiting period. And multiple doctors, again, must confirm your diagnosis, your prognosis, and your mental capacity. And there has to be a minimum of a certain amount of days. I think it's about 20 days uh, for the from the time that you start making these requests to the time that you actually receive the instructions and the prescription. So it's all a hard decision, right? But this is some of the criteria. I'm sure there's more that we don't know about today. We're basing this a little bit on research, but things like you spoke about, with ALS, we were talking about earlier, you and I, Lisa. Cancer is common, end stage heart disease, things where there's it's only getting worse. It's only getting worse, right? And I know you're smiling, Lisa, and you want to add to that?
You know, I gave you the example, my friend. My friend could live like this. He doesn't even qualify. My friend could live like this another 10 years, just like this, as what we call a vegetable. Really, a vegetable. And so that doesn't qualify, you see. So, it's a really, suffering is a personal thing. Okay, what one person considers suffering is not what somebody else considers suffering. What one person feels a violation of God's, if you're very religious, God intended this or whatever. Um, you know, Number one, you need to be really clear with your family, you know,
Oh, yeah. It
very,
should be. I know we want our dignity and we want to be independent and make decisions on our own, but when we leave the earth, it's not just about us. It's about the people who love us and the people who are left behind and have to deal with this for if it's a year or 20 years of suffering, however long it is. We talk about that all the time.
we
But
did.
that's very important communication and to talk about it
Yes,
in advance and to have those open and honest discussions, right?
yes, yes, yeah. So, and then
I,
the,
I don't I didn't
yeah,
I didn't want to leave out, I'm sorry, Lisa, but I don't want to leave out such an important factor that hospice and palliative care they're extraordinary.
they
They're
are.
extraordinary. I'm a hospice volunteer and I have been for over 8 years now. And we can't even I can't even tell you how wonderful they've been in a family's life to help manage symptoms and pain and your quality of life. And
Yes,
I've spoken to many families that don't even know I'm a hospice volunteer for a certain hospice, and they're telling me about their own experience, and we're so happy that we found this hospice who helped our family so tremendously. We wouldn't have gotten through this without them. So we're not negating that, we're just kind of bringing up something a little different here that people may be interested in researching on their own.
yes. And part of this is really taking charge. I'm gonna say it. We decide how we're gonna live our lives. There are people who decide I want to travel. There are people who decide I want to buy a house. There are people who decide, when they want to retire and what they want to do and all those choices. Well, it should also be our choice how we're going to die. And this is from my personal perspective, but this is my choice. It is my life. It is my death. And that's how I feel. And I've thought about it a lot because so many people have died in my life, and two were sudden and two were extended, deaths. And so I've seen both. I've seen both ways. I know my father would never have wanted to suffer, and he said that this is how he would want to go. And that's how he went at the age of 57, you know. So I've seen it, and I just feel like, for me, I've made it clear what I want, what I don't want, what I want to live. I'm always grateful when I pass a certain year. I didn't think I would live more than 26 years because my mother was 26 when she died. And then I thought, okay,
Right,
maybe I'll live to 57, my father. And, now it's 72. I mean, I'm close to 72, and my mother died when she was 72. And the same feelings come up again. The same feelings come up again. Maybe I'm not
right,
going to get past 72, you know, but I want
right.
to be my life and
You
my
want it to be, and you want it to be your decision,
correct.
and it can be. Um, but another amazing And again, this is something that you have to be capable of making this decision. And that can change from one day to the next. I've seen it with Alzheimer's and dementia. I mean, so once that day passes, you no longer have that capability. But I was not curious, I was surprised to see the fact in some of my research that the medical community itself is a little bit torn, they say that they remain divided on how physicians are thinking. Um,
You know,
Providing this option, is it commitment to relieve people's suffering. Other people have conflicts with it as they made an oath to do no harm, which I can understand. But there are many questions. And I think all the answers are really individual, and it depends on your situation, your wants and likes and dislikes, and there's many different questions people ask. And is choosing medical aid in dying, is it selfish? Does it prioritize the patient's individual wishes over the family members who might want more time with you? And no, don't do this now. Or is it an actual gift? Can it be a gift to your loved ones, sparing them from witnessing prolonged suffering and from becoming a burden in their lives, I think, as we see all the time and every day. And I think there's no universal answers to any of the questions that Lisa and I are raising today. It's a personal truth that the families must navigate together, right?
I am happy that you are more objective than me. And I will be honest with every single
Well,
person that watches this.
that's why we do what we do, Lisa, because we often do have some different
I
perspectives,
want to
right?
I want to point out that we're only in this position because the medical industry has so much technology that we keep alive people who would never have been alive. And it's wonderful that some of it is for the good, but you have others who it's not. Okay. And the medical community does not. I'm reading a book called, I think it's Medical Morality. It's a really good book from a surgeon. And he said in this book, he was never taught anything about listening to his patients and allowing them to die or allowing them to express their feelings about not wanting anything else. He said he was taught to just keep forging on, making sure that they were living no matter what situation, no matter what. It's a really interesting book. And he points out that there are no classes in this, and I don't know how long ago this was written, but really well done. And he blames the medical community for not seeing the rest of the picture, which is, hey, what about what the patient wants? What about the quality of their life? What about, it's not a decision for the family, by the way. The family will have to deal with whatever they deal with. My feeling, and again, this is personal, but my feeling is, hey, this is my life. These are my choices. Okay, you don't have the choice to tell me how I'm going to live my life. I know you want me to be here forever, but I'm sorry, I may not be. And I'm not going to be in whatever state because you feel, you can't let go of me. I'm not going to do that. And my children know that. And my partner knows that. So, and again, this is very strong language, but from my perspective, and so I'm sure I'm echoing many other people who feel very strongly about their own life and how they choose to live it and what they decide to do. And by the way, get second opinions from doctors, because even though a doctor may, hold this carrot and say, well, you could do this, you could do this, you could do this. Okay, what about the ramifications of that? Does this mean I can still have this? What kind of quality life? And people don't ask. They're looking for this immediate, treatment or, get well card. And then what when they don't get it? So I have issues with the medical community. I do, because to just decide on
I
treatment. So, but that's
I
not.
have to add, I want to add to that point, and I don't often tell a lot of personal stories. You're better at that than I am. We know that. But as an end of life doula, I do volunteer on several different organizations for several different organizations. And one happens to be Stony Brook University. And I will tell the hospital because I'm very proud of something that I helped them do there. As an end of life doula, one of the things that they've implemented in their hospital is what they call sim labs, right? And they're for all their students that come through. So they have this whole area of the hospital that was mind blowing to me, because we had a personal tour and we were showed all the different aspects of it. but they had operating rooms set up. They had personal patient rooms set up. And it looked just like you were in the hospital. It looked like the real thing, like you were on a set in Los Angeles. They were ready to do episode of ER, right? So, one of the things that they had asked me to do was to provide, because they have different themes. Maybe I'm using the wrong word right now. This was a couple, 2 years ago, I did this, but different educational themes that help the students learn in that particular situation. And they had asked me to do something on end of life. So I put a little program together and they use it with their students. And it's so beautiful and I'm proud of doing that. And the feedback that I got back was really incredible. People still bring it up now that thank you for doing that because one, and I'm telling you this because of what you just said, Lisa. One of the big things are in years past medical doctors were not really taught about the personal side of end of life. Okay, and how important the bedside manner is, and the questions and the empathy, and if anybody's watching The Pit, to watch Dr. Robbie blows my mind because Dr. Robbie really loves and he's compassionate and empathetic and caring towards every single one of the patients that come through that emergency room. And it's mind blowing because you don't see a lot of people like that, especially when you're in emergency situations. But by doing this program, that's what they were thankful for. Wow, okay, we didn't really know this before, during, or after. And I gave a little bit more personal perspectives on the program. And
Yes.
they were so happy to be able to implement that with their students because, and that's what needs to be done.
Yes, it does.
That's what needs to be done. So I contributed my little piece of the world and being able to help up and coming students, who are going through that program.
Important.
So thank you for raising that. They don't know, or they didn't learn, but I think there's so much more awareness now that things are being implemented into their programs,
Good. Good for you.
right?
Good for you.
I
Yeah.
also want to bring up now a little bit about I didn't do too much research, Lisa, on where you can go and some possible resources, right, to help you. But I did read that there were a couple that will help you learn more about medical aid in dying, whether for yourself or for a loved one. And it told me that they were reliable sources, although Lisa and I don't know. So we're letting you know you need to make that decision on your own. One was called Compassionate and Choices. It said that they were the nation's oldest and largest nonprofit that's focused on improving care and expanding options at the end of life. And it has statewide specific information about medical aid in dying laws, as well as personal stories and resources to have these difficult conversations, which is really important and helpful. Another one was the Death and Dignity National Center. It says that they're a reputable organization that tracks legislation and provides educational resources for the most current information on your state's laws and your state health department's website. And um, it's a authoritative source if you'd like to look there as well. So again, Lisa and I really don't know, but those are two resources that you can check out if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah, the issue is really, look, when we talked a long time ago about hope, okay? And hope is very important when you're looking at your life and all. But when we say that there's no more hope and there's no more quality of life and there's nothing else that can be done, that's what we're really talking about here, okay? You know, we're not just talking about ending life. We're talking about trying to not live a life of just suffering, pain and suffering. And nobody wants that for anybody. So,
And
again,
Lisa and you and I talk about this all the time in a lot of our other videos. And as an end of life doula, I will say it again. The reason why I think I'm kind of pro-choice on this whole topic we're talking about today is because you can experience end of life with more intention and more meaning. We are all going to die. Okay, that's inevitable. We can't say it enough, Lisa and I. Everybody should know this, but when you haven't experienced it in your life, you think we're here forever and that you won't experience, but we all are going to die. So many people, though, that have gone through the process this way, and by implementing an end of life doula into their family's world at the end of life, they see the importance of helping make end of life sacred and a gentle experience and environment. I say all the time when I talk to people that when babies are born, we celebrate that life. We celebrate when babies are born, right? And it's the happiest time of life. Well, leaving the world doesn't have to be as sad as it is for almost everybody. It can be a better experience. People have ceremonies. People have just sit down and talk together and have conversations and gather and express their feelings and love and their memories and do meaningful rituals that may be important things to your family. Listen to music, have favorite objects in the room, make your surroundings really, really comfortable and bring it, hopefully it can be at home. It doesn't have to be in a hospital or hospice,
Yeah.
and that an experience like this can be at home, can be the experience that doulas create when they come into a family's world.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point of the end of life doula, because they can bring that experience in. So if you choose this topic we're talking about today, the medical assisted dying, you can choose to have that type of experience at the end of your life. If you like fairy lights all around the room, you can buy 12 fairy light trees and play your soft music in the background and visit all your friends and get to do this before you go. Okay. But again, with this criteria,
Yeah.
and there's a reason for that. So I don't know. I think this is a good topic, Lisa. And I think it's something that,
I know that
right? It's
people are not going to discuss it, but they're thinking about it, especially my own parents.
right.
Okay. Yeah, we're in our 70s. And, I look at the average age of people, and I cannot believe that we're chronologically near that, us. Okay. Women live a little longer than men and all, but, just age-wise. Now we're all getting used to seeing people in their 80s and their 90s. But, in the past few months, three of my friends have lost their spouses and they were in their 70s. Okay. And one person, my cousin, was very sick and she was only 53 years old and she just died of kidney failure and stuff. And my other cousin committed suicide. She was 63. So, life is just not.
And some of these traumatic experiences, a car accident, things like that, they're unavoidable, they're unintentional, and there's nothing we could do but
That's right.
suffer,
That's right.
right? There's nothing. But when there's the capability to bring peace into your environment, my God, it could be such a beautiful thing. It could be such a beautiful experience with with your person or your family or extended family and friends. And I believe the whole grieving process is so much different.
Me
It's
too.
so much different when you can embrace end of life versus not having had that chance,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. That's true. It's true.
Yeah.
And this is very, this is important. This is a lot of information that people need to know. And by the way, if your state isn't one of the states, you need to research and see, do you have to have residency? Do you have to find doctors who are going to agree, on what the situation is of those 12 states that one of them you could go into, where the
That's right.
at. Yep. So it's a lot of conversation.
So
It's a lot
that's
of,
right. And it's a personal decision for everybody. And it's a personal decision on how you want to be remembered as well. And that's why I got so involved with the legacy projects that I do. Now I have to tell you, I would say almost 90% of my clients are healthy. They're healthy individuals. And I started working with only terminal clients to leave their memories and stories and history. But the majority are healthy because they know the importance. They want to be remembered. They want their family to feel that love, when they look back and listen to them or watch them and hear their wisdom and their love and know where their ancestors came from. I mean, there's so much to that that's ripped away from us when we don't take care and have mindful thinking about end of life like we do at the beginning of life.
That's right.
Right. So all of these things are really important. And I know that our discussion today might have brought up difficult emotions for people listening, but I hope you listened on, and I hope you reach out to some of those resources and look for others that I'm sure that we didn't dive into, and any support services that you can, because the more you can do this and be open to discussion, um, bringing it into conversations with your family, the more awareness and peace I think that you can bring into the whole experience. And we just really want you to take care of yourself and your families and the people in your life that you love. And we all have the power to do that.
And we all have
So,
the power to live our lives fully each
right.
day, because we can only count on the present. And that's what it is, our gift of the present. And I tell people all that time, don't keep putting everything off. Don't keep saying, I'm going to end up doing it, because you may not have an opportunity to do that. So that's our life lesson. And I think it's,
Perfect note. Perfect note to end that on, Lisa. Thank you very much for talking about this tough subject together. And if anybody has any questions, our information's at the top of the video screen. Reach out anytime and we'll be happy to help. And thank you for listening in. And
and thank you for, and comments
love life.
as well. Yes, please.
Yes, as well. Thank you. And Lisa,
Yeah.
I will see you next week.
Thanks, Susan. Take good
All
care.
right. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.